Pygmy Falcha. Welcome to Irish Granny Helen. Welcome to Debbra Lupien of the Voice of the Akashic Records. Thank you,
Okay.
Deborah, for getting together again.
Yes, a pleasure.
And I asked Deborah right before we started if she was reporting from Jeff Bezos' wedding in Venice. Check out the background there. Why don't you tell everybody what that is?
Well, I asked AI to create for me the pool area from the Hollywood days of old. So you see that we have this ranch style home mansion with this big pool and all the seats so they can have their glamorous parties.
Yeah. So you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a description of this place in I want to say somewhere in Nevada, like maybe Reno, or yeah, I think it was more mountain,
Tahoe.
maybe Tahoe, where Marilyn Monroe had a very serious meeting with Frank Sinatra and some other characters right before she died. Been a while since I read about it, but that's kind of what it looked like.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it is interesting. So today we thought we would maybe see if we can connect with a couple of the people, the stars from the book Going Hollywood that Sarah Jordan Heinz wrote that I've been covering every Saturday. And so far we've talked about Clark Gable, we've talked about Carole Lombard. I don't know how we'll set this up. I don't have 6 zillion lists of questions. So I'm hard to estimate how long any one person will take. So if we play it by ear, we may divide
Yes,
it up. We may do it in one, wait and see. Is that okay with you?
sounds great.
So the first person I thought we would talk about is Clark Gable, the king of Hollywood. Um, he was a He-Man. You know, he was Mr. Plaid shirts and I'm on a horse and I'm a cowboy and I'm uh, a logger, and that was his whole persona. And in fact, excuse me, he's described as a closeted intellectual. He had a provision in his contract where nobody was allowed to photograph him holding a book. Doesn't that blow your mind? I mean, that blows my mind. He didn't want anyone to get the mistaken notion that he had a brain. He was actually quite intelligent. So I thought maybe that could be our first question.
Okay.
Like, why didn't you want people to?
Why?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Mr. Gable, are you available to speak? Okay. So I'm seeing this big wall of tomato red, which to me is about being grounded. He was a very grounded, pragmatic man. So can you tell us, why did you have in your contract that you could not be photographed holding a book? First of all, is that true? Yes, okay. So can you tell us about that? Well, I had an image to uphold, and if they'd seen me reading a book, they might have got some ideas that I was a highfalutin man that they couldn't relate to, one of those intellectual eggheads. So I wanted them to think of me like the guy next door that they could rely on, the handyman that would come and help them out, rescuing the damsels in distress. It was a image that I carefully cultivated. Did somebody advise you to do that, or was that your
Yeah.
choice? Yeah, the agent suggested it to him, but he agreed. He saw the point of it.
Was there really that much of a dichotomy? I mean, would people really pigeonhole you into one narrow set of personal characteristics? Like you couldn't be both outdoory, He-Man type and have a brain?
Hmm. Great question. So, Mr. Gable, couldn't people distinguish those two characters from from each other? Can you help us understand it? It's kind of hard to wrap our heads around because we don't have a problem with people being intellectuals and he-men at the same time. Well, you might not have a problem with it, but the people of that time were simpler. They didn't have a lot of time to be intellectual. They were too busy living and surviving because remember, we had the war. Things were hard. We came out of the Depression. It was a whole different mindset. So, for the purposes of the movies and being somebody who could sell tickets, it was important to cultivate that image. So, we carefully crafted it. Maybe we were wrong, but at the time it seemed like the right answer.
His father remarried. He had a stepmother, and he was very close to her. Her name was Jenny, and he said he was born, by the way, in Ohio, and he said that if it hadn't been for her, he said I would be working on a farm in Ohio right now. You know, he said when he was alive. She kind of introduced him to the world of culture and arts, and so could he talk a little bit about that relationship and how much influence it had over his choice of wives?
The stepmother?
Mhm. He
Okay.
tended to marry much older women who
Oh,
kind of took him under their wing and schooled him. It was a very familiar pattern based on who the relationship he had with his stepmother.
yeah. Okay, so Mr. Gable, can you tell us about your relationship with your stepmother? She was a breath of fresh air. She brought light, sunshine, and just an upbeat vibe to our lives. It was pretty hard scrabble before she came around. So it was exciting for me as an up and coming young man to see opportunities laid out for me beyond just the manual labor that might have been my fate had I not been encouraged by her. And she was a good looking woman. I have to admit, I maybe had a crush on her. And it felt really good to be supported and encouraged, lifted up by her. It was perfect. Okay, so would you say then she was an influence on your choice of women? Well, I suppose she probably was, although I wasn't conscious of it because I was a very independent man and I like to think that I was making my own choices.
Well, his father thought the arts were effeminate and wanted him to work in the oil fields. And he did a whole lot of physical labor for a long time. But, you know, he was poor. It didn't pay well. But he joined a theater group and he ended up in Portland. I have some daughters who live in Portland. So I'm curious to hear what he thought of Portland in those days.
Okay, Mr. Gable, could you tell us about your experience in Portland? What was that like? Oh, it was so different from Ohio. Lots of fresh air and beautiful, beautiful trees. I really enjoyed the nature aspect of it, and it was a different sensibility. I suppose, if I'm honest about it, the people seemed smarter there. There was more of an intellectual basis that I was attracted to because there was something to aspire to. It wasn't just go use your body, do the physical labor, make a wage, and, you know, do that every day until you die. It was more aspirational, and I really appreciated that.
You know, today Portland tends to be kind of avant-garde, very artsy and creative. Was it that way then too?
So, Mr. Gable, was Portland artsy and avant garde? I suppose a little bit, but nothing like it is today. So, it wouldn't have been something that you might have remarked upon. It was more low key.
Hmm. So he got a coach, an acting coach, and she was an older woman. She was 17 years older. Her name was Josephine Dillon, and she seemed to be very taken with him. She ended a serious relationship, and so did he, so that she could study. He could study with her. And the story is that she fell in love with him, and he fell in love with all the possibilities. Could he talk about that?
Yeah. So, Mr. Gable, could you talk about your relationship with Josephine? She was a fine gal, taught me so much, and I'm so grateful to her. But did you return her feelings? Were you in love with her? I think it's more accurate to say I was in like with her. I liked what she could do for me. I liked the life and the possibilities that she opened up for me. But no, wasn't a great passion.
Well, they got married, and at the reception, the wedding reception, he flirted with a blonde, and they went to bed separately. So, can you
Wow.
talk about that?
So, Mr. Gable, you were naughty after your wedding and got your wife all upset with you. Can you tell us about that? What were you doing? What were you thinking? On the day of your wedding, flirting with a blonde? I know. It was despicable. I'm ashamed of myself. And she let me have it good. I had to watch my P's and Q's after that. But truthfully, like I said, she wasn't a great passion. She was more of a convenience. And I guess if I'm honest, I could say I used her. Not proud of that. But I did try to be more careful about flirting in front of her.
So she filed for divorce. She finally had enough of it. And he was all when she filed for divorce, he was already involved with somebody else. And I have seen that her name written differently in different places, and I don't know which is correct. I've seen it written Rita, and I've seen it written Rhea without the T. Which one is it?
Okay, so Mr. Gable, the woman that you got involved with that ended your marriage, was her name Rita with a T? Was it Rhea? It was Rhea.
Rhea. So she was also 17 years older, and she was like a socialite sophisticate. So what was it about her?
So what was it about Rhea that drew you to her? She was lots of fun, and she had all that moolah, so she could take care of me the way I like to be taken care of, where my wife didn't quite have that financial base. But she was also a bombshell. You know, he's like, he lusted after her. She made him feel good. She made him feel manly. And Josephine did not.
So without judgment, because I don't I don't care. I have nothing invested in it. I'm just really curious about the process. So he went from marriage to marriage, older woman to older woman, and it was about your money, and it was about position that they could advance his career. And he had this hot relationship with Carole Lombard. But I wonder, when you move on, when you die, and you evaluate how you've lived your life, did he learn anything from doing that? Did he learn about the purpose of marriage and his tendency to use it in that way, selfish way?
So, Mr. Gable, can you talk about your perspective once you crossed over? Did you learn about marriage and commitments and maybe rethink some of your choices? What was your thought process about that? Oh, yeah, I had a lot of karma to account for. I hurt a lot of people, and I'm not proud about doing that.
So
I was brash.
okay. What did he learn about marriage in general? Like not just his own mistakes, but in general.
So, what did you learn about marriage in general? Well, I learned that it's not for everybody, and maybe you shouldn't go rushing into it. And it's not so bad to be single. Then you don't have anybody breathing down your neck and you can do what you want to do.
So I'm gonna draw the conclusion that it's probably very subjective. It's different for everybody.
What
So
I'm getting is he said, I liked variety. That's the truth.
do you okay, I'm picking up on this energy here that I really wasn't expecting. I get the idea he was a lot of fun. Like he makes me laugh and I have no reason. I mean, getting chills just saying it. I have no reason to feel that way. That wasn't the impression I had from reading about his life. He seemed kind of, I don't know, a little too macho for my taste, but he actually sounds like he was fun. What impression do you get?
Yeah, that's the energy that I feel. He was a good time, Charlie. He enjoyed
Yeah. Yeah.
himself.
Maybe not so great to be on the receiving end of it, but
Yeah.
but pretty funny guy. So he had this rivalry ongoing throughout his career with Spencer Tracy. They often auditioned for similar parts, or they were considered for the same part, and it was like a one time one would get it, the next time the other would get it. Can he talk? And they ended up being friends. Can he talk a little bit about that relationship?
So, Mr. Gable, can you talk about your relationship and rivalry with Spencer Tracy? Tracy. Well, I have to admit, there were times where I was really jealous of him because he was such a fine actor. I aspired to be half the man that he was. And yeah, it hurt my feelings when he got a part that I really thought I was better suited for. But, all in all, we were both working, which is fortunate in Hollywood. We both had good lives. And after a while, I kind of rounded my edges out a little bit and relaxed into the life that I had built for myself. And then the jealousy just went away, and it was all about respect and friendship.
I think that's called maturing. Yeah,
Yeah.
just guessing. You know, I'm sure this matters. He and Spencer Tracy each made a piece, made one of my absolutely favorite movies. Loved Gone with the Wind. I know it's not politically correct, but I loved Gone with the Wind. And I loved Father of the Bride, the original Father of the Bride. Not
Mhm.
always considered Spencer Tracy's biggest, movie. That was a genius movie with genius performances. It was so well cast. And
Yeah.
they were both perfect. I mean, they could not have picked a perfect person for either one. It's just phenomenal. Um, so he signed a contract with Irving Thalberg. And I'm really curious about something. Did he know Eddie Mannix?
Oh, Mr. Gable, did you know Eddie Mannix? Yes.
So what did he think of him?
So, what did you think of Eddie Mannix? He respected him. What else? He was a talented man. We weren't close. It was more of an acquaintance, but I did know of him, and yeah.
Did he know of his reputation?
Did you know about his reputation? Well, there were rumors, but I don't pay attention to such things. I judge them by how they are with me, and he always treated me fairly.
Eddie Mannix was known as the fixer. And he was a low-level thug who made good. And they sent him out to beat people up and threaten people. And his finger was in every mysterious accident and death for quite a while associated with studios. He was who who was it whose wife died in a terrible accident? And rumor has it that Eddie Mannix saw to that. And then they think he was involved in George Reeves' death, Superman.
Hmm.
He was a terrible person. I mean, he was regularly beating people up, extorting people, blackmailing people, threatening people, arranging unfortunate, nice little bakery you got here.
Yeah.
Pity if it burned down. That's. I was just curious, but I do think that it would be dependent on the dynamic. And if you've got somebody like Clark Gable, who's physically imposing and his personality is larger than life, and he's going along with what the studio's agenda is, I could see having the impression, well, he's just another guy in the periphery. What did he think of Irving Thalberg?
So, Mr. Gable, what did you think of Irving Thalberg? Oh, the man was a genius. I really admired him. He was tough, though. Tough not to crack. You had to watch your step around him. He had a certain way of doing things. He didn't like it when you stepped out of line.
Yeah. So he made a movie. He made 8 movies with Joan Crawford. So I want to know the reputation that she has. I have my own opinions about it, but what does he know about that? What did he know then? What does he know now?
So, Mr. Gable, Joan Crawford, what did you know about her back in the day? What was your impression? She was a fun time gal. She got around, but she didn't apologize for it. She enjoyed physical relationships, and more power to her. I admired that about her. So, what about now that you know more about her and you're all passed over? What is your assessment now? Well, I think maybe she was a little too brash at times and wasn't careful enough about the way she dealt with people. Too dismissive, too harsh, not enough compassion.
Was he aware of what was going on behind closed doors about her? I don't know if it was her instability or if it was actually a personality disorder, but how abusive she was and how extreme things were in her family. Did he know about that?
So, Mr. Gable, did you know about the abuse in her family with her children? Were you aware? Now, I'm not one who goes in for gossip, so I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. You treat me right to my face, and we're good.
So he just took people on face value and didn't dig a whole lot deeper.
He was really focused on his life, his world, didn't care about all that other stuff because you don't know what's true and what's not true, and he didn't want to waste his time figuring it out.
Well, he had a 10-year off and on again relationship with Joan Crawford. And Adela Rogers St. John was a journalist, and she wrote about it. And she called it the affair that nearly burned Hollywood down. But she went on to become friends with him. And there were rumors that they actually had a child. Was that true?
Mr. Gable, did you have a child with Joan Crawford?
No, not Joan Crawford. Adela Rogers St. John, the journalist.
Oh,
who
Mr.
wrote,
Gable, did you have okay, did you have a child with Adela Rogers St. John, the journalist? He says yes.
Was that Richard? Was his name a boy named Richard?
Oh, was the child's name Richard? No.
Okay, this is another one.
But,
So
but,
did he know?
but wasn't he also the father of
Oh, we're going to get
somebody
to
else?
that.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
yes. Was he aware at the time?
So were you aware at the time that you had a child with the journalist? Yeah, she told him.
He didn't have anything to do with him?
Can you help us understand? You were not involved in that child's life. That was her doing. She didn't want me involved. She was worried about what it might do to him growing up if he was known as the bastard son of Clark Gable. And to tell you the truth, it wouldn't have done my reputation a whole lot of good either. So it was a kindness that she did for me, although I do feel bad about the boy.
Time was so different then, wasn't it? So different.
Yeah.
Um, so Rita, Rhea, his his girlfriend basically wanted to get married and he didn't. So she went to MGM. She went to the publicity guy at MGM named Howard Strickland and got pressure on him from the publicity at MGM to get married. So did he want to get married? Did he do this against his will? Was he forced to?
So, Mr. Gable, were you coerced into marrying Rhea? Nobody could coerce me into anything I didn't want to do. You might say they persuaded me, but I made the final choice. They showed me the light and the sense of it all, so I went along to get along.
Okay, I'm just going to keep moving moving along. What did he think of Myrna Loy? He worked with her a lot.
So, what did you think of Myrna Loy? Oh, she was a fine actress and a great scene partner. She gave as good as she got. You couldn't ask for more than Myrna. Anything else that you want to say about her? I wish we'd gotten to work together more often. I think we did some fine work together.
Yeah. She and who eventually became her husband, William Powell, and he got around quite a bit. and Clark Gable. They were in a movie called Manhattan Melodrama. Men in White. I don't know. I've got so many movies written down here. I can't figure out who's what. Then he made the studio mad. He did something that made them mad. And what they would do is if you didn't go along with the program, they would force you as part of your contract. You'd have to go work for another studio and do a movie for another studio that you didn't really want to be in, but they kind of wanted you for the name or the face or whatever. So he got farmed out to Columbia because MGM was mad at him. And the movie was called Night Bus. And it seemed like a stinker of a movie. Nobody was happy about it. They thought it was going to fail, right? And then they renamed it. And you might recognize the name. It Happened One Night.
Oh, yeah.
With Claudette Colbert. Gigantic hit. They got 5 Oscar nominations. He got Best Actor. She got Best Actress. So can he talk a little bit about making that movie and how he felt going into it and how surprised he was that they won so many awards?
Yeah. So, Mr. Gable, tell us about your experience on It Happened One Night. How did you feel when you were forced into doing that movie? Well, I wasn't happy about it, as you can imagine. I grumbled a lot, but at that time, the studios really had an iron hold on their talent, and you had to give in and do what they wanted or else. So, listen, I'm not going to fight with them. I know when my goose is cooked. So I went along, tried to have a good attitude about it, and turned out we had a heck of a good time on that set. It was a fun movie to make, and I was tickled pink when we got all those awards. Who would have ever guessed a silly little movie like that would turn out to be such a big hit?
It's a really interesting movie to watch because I don't think it was the intent of the movie makers, but you really get kind of a glimpse of what life was like during the Depression. And it's just things were really different. And it's interesting to see that, Okay. It won all 5 of its Oscars that it was nominated for. That's pretty interesting. So now he's a big movie star. He was making $3,000 a week. I'd be happy to make $3,000 a week right now. So this is where it gets juicy. His next movie was The Call of the Wild. And it was filmed on location in eastern Washington state. And in the mountains, the forest, because it was it was Jack London.
Yeah.
And he was making it with this relatively new young starlet, Loretta Young. She was only 22. And when they got up there, they got stuck because they got snowed in. And there was this just blizzard conditions for so long that they got stuck up there for several months. Can you imagine? Couldn't go anywhere.
No.
They couldn't get out. And they had an affair. And guess what happened? She got pregnant. And you know, he was really blindsided because she'd been married briefly before. She was very religious. She was the Virgin Mary Catholic, you know, crazy religious. And she had a very short, young marriage and was real uptight about religion. And so they get stuck in a blizzard. You know, Mother Nature got involved. And he didn't know she was pregnant. Her mother went to him and said, guess what you did? And he was really shocked. He said, you know, I knew she was divorced. I knew she'd been married. I thought she knew what to do. It never occurred to me, you know, that this was going to be an issue. So what she did is she developed some undefined illness and went to Europe for a rest cure. And what the very last part of her pregnancy, she wanted the baby to be born in the United States. So the very last part of her pregnancy, she had friends who lived in Venice, California. Are you familiar with Venice, California?
No.
Okay, it's in LA. It's just south of Santa Monica, just north of Playa del Rey. It's and hard to say how long in miles. I'm not good with miles, but in the good old days, it used to be about half an hour drive from the airport. So if you're looking at a map of California and Santa Monica's here and the airport's over here, Venice was along here and it's by the beach. But it was started as a replica of Venice, Italy. And so
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's this interesting neighborhood that's all old-fashioned houses, you know, that California Moorish style, stucco, red tile, a lot of old bungalows, little ones. And there aren't streets, they're canals and bridges over the canals. I mean, it looks like a miniature Venice, Italy. It's really charming. And you can imagine how expensive it is to live there, right? And it was kind of an enclave of the artsy type. It always has been. Now it's kind of in a really unfortunate location because around it, like there's the ocean and there's Venice, and then a little bit inland. Well, just bumping up against it is basically gangland. It's bad. Yeah. It really is. It's scary bad. I used to live there, not in Venice, but I used to live in that area. And driving to Santa Monica, you were always nervous if it was late at night. You hoped to God your car didn't break down, you know. Anyway, she had friends who lived in Venice, California, and they put her up and kind of hid her. And the story was she had this terrible illness and she was trying to recuperate. And Dorothy Manners, who was a gossip reporter, she got interested, got curious, and wanted to do an interview with Loretta. So they set this thing up where, she couldn't get out of bed. And she was in bed with all of these blankets and pillows, like 9 months pregnant. And they managed to pull it off. So she had the baby. And immediately the baby got put in an orphanage, which was a thing in those days, a Catholic orphanage. Loretta Young arranged it. And so her name was Judith Young, the baby, and she was described as father unknown. And she was put in this orphanage, and Loretta became the patron of the orphanage. This was her philanthropy or public philanthropy, which was a cover for her to be able to go all the time to the orphanage and see her own child. And then she ended up, when the little girl was 2, she adopted her from the orphanage. That was the cover story. Except this kid is the spitting image. If you cloned both of them and put them together, she is the spitting image of Clark Gable, including the ears. They had to have surgery on her ears when she was about 9 years old to pin her ears back. It was like definitive ears. Just unbelievable. So let's see here. So then she gives this big public interview about how hard it is to be a single mother adopting. So what can you tell us about that?
Okay, Mr. Gable. So what can you tell us from your perspective about the relationship with Loretta Young and your daughter? Oh, that was some situation, wasn't it? Never in my wildest dreams imagined getting into that kerfuffle. But as it all turned out, I was quite proud of my daughter. I wish things had been different and we could have had a relationship. I know that was very hard for her growing up. As for Loretta, it was just, what can I say? It was unfortunate for everybody involved. I marvel at how she and her mother pulled off that whole scam and got away with it for so long.
I know, it's incredible. Especially when that child looks so much like him. I mean, you just look at pictures and you just go, my God, were people blind?
Yeah, but if you didn't have the thought, you'd see the baby and you'd look for the resemblance to the mother. That's what people do.
Well, I guess so. And she did look a lot like her mother. But, oh my God. Okay, so here's a little thing I read in this book, actually, that was something I had not, I read, okay, her daughter Judy grew up, and Loretta got married to a guy named Tom Lewis, and he didn't want somebody else's child. So he never bonded with her. And she took his last name, and he didn't adopt her, but she took his last name. They had a couple of boys together, and they were the golden children, and she was shuffled to the side. She described it as a loveless home. And as an adult, she wrote a book about it, and the whole story is just unbelievable. But there's a theory that Loretta Young might have had some kind of undiagnosed narcissistic personality disorder. Now, I know he's not a doctor, but I like to imagine that once you're dead, you have a little more insight. Would he say that her mental health was not the best?
So, Mr. Gable, from what you know of Loretta Young, would you say that she had a mental health issue? Maybe narcissistic personality or something? Well, if she did, I didn't notice it. She was always fine around me.
Get the impression that he just really takes people on surface.
It's very laid back, yeah. Not judgmental.
I think there's a lot to be, well, I don't know if I'd call it non-judgmental as much as I would call it strategically removed a bit from everything. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't ask any questions, you don't get any difficult answers, right? It's a little bit, and actually the book does describe him as kind of disconnected from people. That was a problem.
But that makes sense to me, because think about this. He was acting all the time, this part of Clark Gable. So that would make you disconnected. You weren't your authentic self all the time. That would cause him to have his own issues.
I have a hard time understanding the actor's mind. Do you know what I mean? That personality. I have a difficult time understanding how you can live like that, pretending to be something you're not all the time, then being overwhelmed with attention or underwhelmed with any kind of attention. So it's feast or famine.
Yeah.
And so much of your self-worth is centered in your ego and the attention you get. I just have a really hard time imagining. I can't put myself in those shoes.
Well, think about it. They're probably like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, just waiting for somebody to find them out. So there's a lot of stress involved.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard to maintain an illusion. And then sometimes I think they get to where they forget who they actually really are, like which one
Yeah.
is the real you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like, though, the energy is with Carole, he could be himself. And that's
Yeah.
why it was such a love affair.
Yeah. She was very down to earth, very down to earth. So, uh, things go on. He's making other movies. He makes this movie called Saratoga with Jean Harlow. And Jean Harlow's not the person you might think she is from the stereotype. And we're going to talk about her at another time. But 90% of the movie was made when she collapsed on the set and basically was carried home to die. And I'm thinking we're not going to get a whole lot of detail here, given previous answers, but I'm curious, what did he think of her? What did he know about her? They called her Baby. She was just this really sweet, really kind, really nice, loving person, not the over sexualized bimbo that she was. A lot of those women weren't. It's interesting. A lot of them were the opposite of the persona that they assumed. Um, she was writing a book. I mean, she was a smart person. Well, what did he think of her?
So, Mr. Gable, what did you think of Jean Harlow? I liked her a lot. Yeah, as your friend there said, she was sweet. She was a pleasure to be around. Easy. She was easy to be around. Some people you got to work hard. With Jean, you could just relax, be yourself, and be accepted. I enjoyed my time with her, and it was so sad when she passed.
Did he know she wasn't well?
Did you know she wasn't well? She did a champion job of masking it. She had some acting chops on her. So despite whatever she was feeling, she was not letting on. She covered up.
I forget what it was. We're going to do her eventually. I forget now what it was. I think it might have been renal failure. I think she had some kidney disorder or something, but I can't remember. And
Sounds familiar.
I'm a little uncomfortable that he can hear all my comments.
Of course.
No offense, this is all fun and games. We're not trying. I'm not judging. Like I care.
He
I have my
doesn't
own
feel
problems.
offended. No, he doesn't feel offended at all.
Okay.
He's just very laid back.
Good. I would hate to think that there's the assumption that we're being real judgy. I'm more just curious about what makes people tick, trying to understand why people make the decisions that they make, and
Yeah.
so I don't make the same mistakes. Okay, so he did a bunch of other movies, and then Gone with the Wind. He didn't really. They really didn't want him for Gone with the Wind at the beginning. They wanted. Oh shoot! Pick. Hang on. Darn it! I had it written down, and now I can't find it. Well, it was genius casting. Tell him I said so. He was the image I had in my mind of Rhett Butler when I read the book when I was young. Just remarkable. Can he share any stories about that movie?
Sure. He says, "Thank you, ma'am." So, Mr. Gable, can you share any stories about Gone with the Wind? Oh, that was a plum roll. I really sunk my teeth in it and had such a good time. There were so many wonderful people on the set that I got acquainted with. Now, Vivian, oh, she was something else. A little hot to handle. Not terribly happy with the situation. But Olivia was wonderful to work with.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah, well, Vivian
Leslie
had emotional problems. I mean, she was
she was bipolar.
bipolar or schizophrenic. I can't remember. She had real serious mental
Yeah.
illness problems that went on for a long time.
I
You
I
have to
don't think
feel,
it was full blown at that time. She was younger. It
yeah,
really developed later, so she was
yeah.
only in the early stages then.
Yeah. But you know, that kind of edgy, unpredictable thing was exactly what the role called for. So it was genius casting.
Yes.
And he had a really special relationship with Hattie McDaniel.
Yes.
I'm going to ask a question that might seem a little bit rude, but it has to be asked. Was that a sincere friendship? I'm
He's
asking my question.
astonished. He's astonished that you're asking because yes, very
Yeah, I
deep
feel like
friendship.
it was. I didn't
Yeah.
doubt it. I felt it was. But there are people who, you know how people are, whom that it was performative or whatever. When I read that he wanted to boycott the premiere of the movie in Atlanta because they wouldn't let her in the theater, I
Yeah.
thought, wow, you know, for a white man to take that kind of a stand in that day and age, that took guts and real friendship.
Well,
I never
he's
doubted.
saying, don't give me too much credit because he had his status at that point. He could do it. He had the chops. If it had been earlier in his career, he might not have been able to do it. But when he put his foot down with Hattie, they knew the people would stand with him. And he said, she was such good people. She was worth it.
He deserves the credit that he gets, and I'll tell you why. There are a lot of people highly placed in the pantheon of stars today and in positions of great wealth and great power who don't do the right thing.
Yeah.
And he did the right
Yeah.
thing, you know?
Well,
So,
he's like, it was the right thing to do. How could you do anything else?
oh, I bet I could give him a list of people today and that could tell you
Yeah.
why he wouldn't do the right thing, you know?
But that was his
Yeah. That
character.
was such a beautiful, yeah. Yes. And you could tell that was his character and it said everything you needed to know about him as a
Yeah.
person. Well, that and then what happens later. But yeah, I never doubted. I hope he doesn't think that. I never doubted it was real, but there has that debate going on in the background. You know, I had to ask. I get to ask all the hard questions here, you know, whether I like it or not. So
Yeah.
he got, he didn't get the best actor for that movie, which just blows my mind. And it was the biggest
Yeah.
moneymaker of all time. So he began this affair with Carole Lombard, and the way they met, it was really cute. They met at a what do you call it, a Valentine's party, and he sent her a white car with pink hearts on it to pick her up. Well, when he drove it to pick her up when they went on their first date. And I just thought that was so cute. He went to all that trouble, you know. So anyway, they got together and they got married. They bought this ranch called Encino Ranch in the San Fernando Valley. And I am just fascinated by the fact that not that long ago, the San Fernando Valley was farmland and ranchland because it's wall to wall cement now. So my question to him is, what was it like then? And what does he think of it now?
So, Mr. Gable, what was San Fernando like in your day? It was glorious, a little piece of heaven, close enough to work, but far enough away. Just right. You could be happy there, you could spread out, you could relax, breathe in that fresh air. Just heavenly. So, what do you think about the way it is today versus the way you knew it? Ah, it's a doggone shame what they've done to that place. So overcrowded, overdeveloped, destroyed it. None of the
There are
charm.
there are some videos on YouTube, and I don't know who created them. I get the impression at might have been part of a government city program. Well, they put a big camera on a tripod on the back of a truck, and they, in a grid, they just went up one side of the street and down the other, and they did every neighborhood in LA and the Valley. And they did this in, I think it was the 40s. And it's in color, which was unusual. And you can watch, and that sounds dull. What you're basically looking at is you're looking out as it drives away. So you're watching places disappear into the distance, and you're seeing neighborhoods. You're seeing people mowing their lawn and kids on bicycles. But oh my God, it's like those children's readers, Dick and Jane, came alive.
Yeah.
It's really a glimpse into the past. Absolutely fascinating. I just thought I'd say that. So he had these movies that he was making that Lana Turner was in one of them, and Carole Lombard was really jealous of Lana Turner. She thought that they might be having a little fling. I guess Lana Turner didn't make any bones about her interest. And so we'll get to the next part in a minute, but I'm getting hiccups. Sorry, hiccups. What was the deal with Lana Turner and Carole Lombard still? What was that really about?
So, Mr. Gable, can you comment on the relationship between Lana Turner and Carole Lombard? Oh, they were just too cute, fussing at each other. Lana was stalking me like a feline. Carole got her back all up. They were hissing. Secretly, I was rooting for a cat fight.
But he wasn't being unfaithful to Carole Lombard.
I don't think so. Were you being unfaithful to Carole? No, but I just enjoyed the way she reacted, all possessive about me. And I didn't really want them to have a cat fight, but I had my fantasies.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. We had a little technical difficulty. The internet went out for a second there. And I had just asked a very pointed question. I thought it was a sign from the universe. I didn't know it was a sign from the internet gods. I asked, did he fool around with Lana Turner, or was that all in Carole Lombard's mind?
No, he said he did not, but he got such a kick out of Carole being jealous. And he said secretly, I was kind of rooting for them to have a cat fight. Not really, but he found it so adorable that Carole was like a cat, getting her back up and being all hissy, and Lana was slinking around and trying to do her moves, and he found the whole thing humorous.
Yes and no. It actually turned out to not be so funny, because what happened was he didn't like to travel. This is the story anyway. He can confirm it. And he was asked to do a bond tour, a war bond tour by the government. And Carole stepped up and said she'd do it. She was happy to do it. And she was very good at raising money. He didn't really like to talk to crowds of people and schmooze and glad hand, and he didn't really want to do it. So she was good at it. She said she'd do it. She volunteered and she left. And it's interesting because she was a Baha'i. Isn't that interesting? After I just did a thing on Baha'i.
Oh.
She was a member of the Baha'i faith, and it was generational. Her mother was also a Baha'i, and they're really into numerology. And her mother kept saying, this is not good luck. We shouldn't be traveling right now. The date, the time, the number on the plane, I forget. There were bad numbers involved. And her mother and her publicist, I think, were traveling with her, other people. And she didn't want to wait for the train or the bus or whatever it was, because she was jealous of Lana Turner, didn't want to leave him alone with the potential for Lana to do something. So flying was the fastest solution. So she raised $2 million in those days, you know, that's incredible. And they got on the plane and they had a couple of different stops. And right after their last stop on takeoff, they flew into a mountain. And you know, I'm uncomfortable asking about that, but I suppose we should if he can talk about that, because it really destroyed his life. It was terrible.
Yeah. Well, he's saying, Helen, that was a long time ago. It's okay. We could talk about it.
Okay.
So, Mr. Gable, tell us about that. The experience with losing your wife so suddenly, tragically. Well, I was devastated, as you can imagine. I don't know what more there is to say about it. She was my everything, and then she was gone, and I was so lost.
You know
Once I
what's
got over here and joined her, of course, you know, everything was good. And I found out that she'd been fine all along. But she just left a big hole in my life that never healed. That hole is in my heart was always there.
Yeah, he was the one who wasn't fine. We knew she would be fine, but you
Yeah.
know, it's the people that are left behind. And to me, I know I'm not minimizing what he went through, but to me, the saddest thing was her little dog was looking for her constantly. Was the dog okay?
So, Carol's dog, was the dog okay? Did it finally stop looking for her? You know, I didn't really notice. I was so caught up in my own grief. I don't know what was going on with the dog. I left other people to take care of it.
Oh,
Thankfully,
well,
I had help at that time.
yeah, yeah. So he joined the military. Of course, you know, it's during the war, but he was 40. Nobody wanted him, you know. He joined the Army Air Force and he became a gunner and a photographer on a bomber, you know. And he ended up flying 24 missions over Germany. So and the studio was begging the army, please ground him, he's our star, you know. And he was just like, no. I want to know, did he have kind of a death wish? Was that what was going on there?
Mhm. So, Mr. Gable, when you became a gunner in the Army, did you have a death wish? Were you wanting to exit this world? You know, I don't think I consciously thought about it that way. I was just looking for something to do that could distract me from my grief and give me a sense of purpose. So I threw myself into it, gave it my all.
Literally, they ended up having to parachute out of a shot up plane over England. So he was a legitimate war hero, you know.
Yeah.
There were a couple of big Hollywood stars. Audie Murphy is the one everybody knows about. He legitimately was a war hero. Errol Flynn. Was it Errol Flynn? No, Tyrone Power? Errol Flynn. Which one was it? It was one of those two. Disappeared, died in a plane. And the
Oh, then it had to be Tyrone Power because Errol Flynn died of alcoholism.
okay, it must have been Tyrone. Well, let me double check. I don't want to lie to people. But the story is, this is a very interesting story. We should look into this someday. The story is he was doing undercover stuff for the military.
Oh.
And they had him fly as a decoy. And the Germans were going after him. And they thought that it was Churchill's plane. And they shot him out of the sky. I'm pretty sure it was Tyrone Power. No, because he died in 1958. So who was it? Who was the star that got star who died? This is going to drive me crazy. I know this makes for great video, but we have to know the truth. Who was the star who died in World War II plane? because they went after him. Not Carole Lombard.
I guess you have to
Other
say male
actors.
star.
Oh, okay. It's all coming back to me now. And it's very ironic given, okay, I'm going to give you a hint. Given that we talked about Gone with the Wind, it is ironic. Can you guess? Leslie Howard. Leslie Howard.
Oh.
He played Ashley.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know, Tyrone Power, Errol Flynn, Leslie Howard, it's all the same.
Interchangeable.
Well, it's like those modern day young men who are all like, I don't know who they are. I don't know. I could never distinguish one from the other because I haven't seen any of the movies they're in, because they're all in those like comic book type movies, you know, action heroes. But there's about 4 of them. They're all named Chris, which is so funny. And they all kind of have that same square jawed, handsome, you know, look about them. It's impossible to distinguish the difference. They're the Leslie Howards of the future. Okay, so he came back from the war. How difficult was that adjustment to come back? Carole is gone. The war is over. He doesn't have the adrenaline going, you know, of the gunnery job. How difficult was that?
So, Mr. Gable, how was your transition back to civilian life after being in the war? I was kind of numb. So, just wandered around trying to get my bearings, looking for a new purpose. I needed a job.
Well, he went back to acting and he got involved with a woman named Lady Sylvia Ashley. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
But they got divorced in 52. So they were only married 3 years. And his comment on the whole thing was, she was too highbrow. So there was a fight over money, you know. That what you could expect. But then he met this woman named Kathleen Williams. Her nickname was Kay, and she was a model. And they got together, and she refused to redecorate the ranch. She said that she liked the memory of Carole Lombard, and she liked what she had done. How did that make him feel?
So, Mr. Gable, how did you feel when your new wife wanted to keep the decorations and the look that Carole had put into the ranch? Well, it was comfortable for me, so I didn't really mind. I thought it was big of her to go along and leave things as they were. Made it so much easier for us to settle into a new life together. She was easy, a little bit like Carole, although she didn't quite measure up, but she was easy.
So his last movie was The Misfits, and he made it with Marilyn Monroe. And they actually, from what I've read, had a really great relationship. What did he think of her?
So, Mr. Gable, what did you think of Marilyn Monroe? Well, what's not to like about Marilyn? She was classy, she was smart, she was gorgeous, fun to be around. She knew how to have a good time. You wouldn't necessarily know that about her.
Oh,
she was
know.
Curious.
We
was
know.
Very curious, had a lot of questions, and she listened. She was a really good listener. And that's hard to find in a woman sometimes.
Oh, please. Hard to find in a man, too. Hey, watch it. You're not the king anymore.
Yeah. Watch it.
She was really smart. That's something a lot of people don't know about her, because they went out of their way in the studio and she had to play along to make her look dumb. She was super smart. She was close friends with people like the poet Carl Sandburg and the author Carson McCullers. I mean, she hobnobbed with intellectuals. She was very smart and a much nicer person than she's ever given credit for, and not mentally unstable, insecure. she had a traumatic life and she was insecure, but she wasn't a lunatic, and she gets a lot of bad rap. I'm glad to hear that he kind of confirmed what I believe. Tell him there's a great book that came out recently that does her justice.
Oh, so Mr. Gable, do you know about the book on Marilyn that came out recently? I love that book. I'm so happy that author took the time to document the real Marilyn because the world ought to know what a fine person she was.
Does he have a message for the author Larry Jordan? Because I would love nothing
Great.
better than to give him.
Yeah. So, Mr. Gable, since my friend Helen happens to know the author, do you have a message you'd like to share with him? Yeah, good on you. I'm so pleased, and I want to express my gratitude for all the hard work you put into it because I know it must have been significant. It's impactful, it will be remembered. You've done good.
Well, here's a little treat for him. The story that we have about him, the small biography we have about him, is from a book written by that author's daughter. The author of this book
So,
that we
yeah,
got
I
this
know
from.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so did you know that, Mr. Gable, that the story about you that we're basing our interview on was written by the daughter of that man, Sarah Jordan? Nope, didn't know that. Can honestly say I didn't. There's a lot that escapes me because I'm kind of busy over here. But thanks for letting me know. I appreciate that.
Kind of runs in
Thank
the family.
Yeah, thank
Funny.
you, Sarah, for the kind words you wrote about me.
Oh, she did too. She absolutely loved you. So we're going to be talking with her soon here in a couple of weeks, and I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait to give her that message. Okay, so I'm sad to say that on the 6th of November of 1960, his daughter Judy's 25th birthday, he had a massive heart attack, and he actually recovered, and they sent him home, but 10 days later he died suddenly. Did he know that things weren't going well after the heart attack, before he died, that 10-day period? Did he know things were going downhill?
So, Mr. Gable, in that 10 days between your heart attack and your passing, did you know that you were on your way out? Yeah, I kind of had a feeling. I was feeling really worn out and truthfully looking forward to the end of the road. It had been a long trail ride and I was ready to reach the end.
Well, sad because his wife was pregnant with their first child. So she gave birth to his son uh, March. He died in November. And she had the baby in March. And you know who was at the baby's baptism and was really involved with the baby? Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, how nice.
His wife reached out to her because she said she was one of these people. She'd slip a wad of bills to a member of the crew whose family was sick. She just was very thoughtful. Betty Grable's daughter got in a really bad accident in the middle of making a movie with Marilyn, and she had to rush off. And she said she would never forget her gratitude. The only person involved in the movie, the studio, anything that bothered to find out how things were was Marilyn Monroe. Called her that night to see how her daughter was. She was always thoughtful. And she bonded with Kay Gable, and they became friends, and she was involved in his son's childhood.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. Well, that's it. What did he think of the book? Does he know about the book that his daughter Judy wrote after? Well, she wrote it before her mother died, but she didn't publish it until right before her mother died, and her mother cut her off. She was very upset about it. And it wasn't, I read it a long time ago, but it didn't seem nasty. It just seemed honest. So she didn't go out of her way to malign her mother, but the very fact that she talked about, well, she hid her pregnancy and she those were things that Loretta never wanted anybody to know about.
Yeah.
Is he aware of that whole thing? What did he think about that?
Yeah. So, Mr. Gable, were you aware that Judy wrote a book about her mother and her birth? Yeah, because I keep an eye on my children, so I knew that that was happening. I understand why Judy did it. I know she needed to stake her claim, to identify herself. That was really important to her because it was robbed from her for so many years. I'm sorry Loretta had such a bad reaction to it. Really, that was wrong of her. She should have gotten over it by all that time and given her daughter a little bit of space to spread her wings. But
I think,
Judy
don't you
got
think it was
over it.
embarrassment, you know?
It feels betrayal, more betrayal energy.
Like she was betrayed by her daughter.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
I
but
did all these things for you. I sacrificed for you, and this is what you do to me? Stab
yeah,
me in the heart?
how toxic is a
Drama.
relationship? Toxic, to demand that a loved one lie for you, perpetuate a lie. That's
Mhm.
toxic. And her daughter, she became a clinical psychologist. That's
She
how
was an
much
actress. For a while, she was an actress.
she might have been, but she became a licensed psychologist. And, she probably was on a path of exploration of her own situation and her mother, trying to understand, that relationship. And yeah, it's a sad story. And she died. His daughter died in November of 2011.
Uh,
Well, tell him thank you. If I could have had this conversation when I was about, I don't know, 13, I might have had a heart attack myself.
yeah. So,
Madly in
thank you,
love.
Mr. Gable. We appreciate your cooperation and
Yeah. It was a
your
really
gentlemanly grace.
fun
Yeah.
conversation, right?
Yeah, I really like his energy.
Yeah, yeah. Not what I expected.